All right, so we're back with Pat Sheahan this week for our weekly press conference. Pat, we have Toronto this week at home, what we're deeming as Turkey Bowl 2010. Can you offer a bit of comments on the opponent Toronto?
I hope that that's a Thanksgiving connotation and not anything else intended there. Toronto's a little better. They've improved steadily throughout the season. They've got a few players now. They've got a wide receiver that can do some damage. They've got a nice young running back who looks like he's got some scoots. And their quarterback, Gaels, has shared time with his colleague there, and he looks like he's emerged as the guy, and he performed quite well. I think that was a career game for him last week against Ottawa. I think he was 28 for 45 for reasonable numbers. Overall, I think both offenses generated some significant yards. I believe when you added it all up, Ottawa was 650 and Toronto was just over 600. That was an interesting day. And so, I mean, there are obviously some things now that you've got to take quite seriously about Toronto, and that's the ability of the quarterback to throw the football, and that will open up things on the running game also. I mean, if you overload the pass. So they give you a few things that you have to defend. Defensively, I think their kids hung in. They play a similar style to Western. I think they play a predominantly zone structure. They try and keep everything in front, try and slow you down. They're very committed to not giving up the big play. Having said that, they gave up 2 against Ottawa, one right up the middle on a play-action pass, and another one in a one-on-one situation. Cyril Agite of Ottawa made both those big plays. Other than that, they played pretty pesky. They hustled. So I was quite impressed with them. They had a punt fake. You know, they had 3 picks. 2 of them, I think, generated some points and turnovers. So you know, they got it going their way, and they've just been, I guess, as of this morning or yesterday, been awarded 2 points for a win. So they're probably pretty confident. So it should be a good game.
Any questions from the floor?
Yeah, do you have any additional comments about the Laurier appeal process?
Not really. I don't really know much about it. I know I just sort of read what was on the net today, and apparently there was some issue about credit. I don't know if it's a credit thing, an age thing, so I really couldn't give you much insight there.
Coach, mentally, where's your team at?
Yeah, we have been a bit snake bit. There's no question about that. It's one of those years where when you need a play, you can't get one. When you need an official, we need a hold or a clip or something, like you can't get that either. We've had some things, just a few bounces not go our way. But through it all, I think the guys have hung in. It's like they've had their ears boxed. Just to sort of scanning the stats, and of course stats are for losers, but you scan the stats, and in 5 of our 6 games, we had a statistic, our opponent, in terms of yards gained and all the rest. But the one all-important stat is on the scoreboard at the end. We haven't been there, in the end. But listen, over the last 4 years, starting in 06, we had a lot of great Saturdays, a lot of great games, a lot of tight ball games that went back and forth. This year is no different, really, because we're in tight ball games again. But we just haven't had that big catch, that big run. That big stop, that big special teams play. I think across the board, our team has showed flashes of brilliance in all 3 areas of the game, and then we've also had some breakdowns. So it's one of those years where we're growing, we're developing. We said our goal was to make sure that we were a good football team by the end of the season. The goal hasn't changed. We're a team that needs a victory. Okay, we need a victory bad. Just to sort of keep the spirits up and keeping everybody believing. That's where we're at, I think.
Does it need to be a blowout or just a W?
You know what? At this point, the W will do. Okay, let's just get a win. The guys need to feel what it's like to win. I mean, listen, we blew Windsor out. That was a tremendous ball game. We had everything functioning. We had great D, we had great O, we had great special teams, and as good as that game was, I think we still left a few points on the table there. We had a couple of deep balls there that were called back on penalties and that kind of stuff. So we can put it all together. There's no question about that. We just have to do it, and we have to do it consistently. And it is a team skill, if you will. It's a function of everybody being in, everybody being focused, getting a few breaks, the whole thing. And I think once we find the formula, we'll be in good shape. And everybody's got to stay positive, okay? It's, this is a very proud group, so, they've won a lot of games over the last couple of years, so fortunately, they have not taken their lack of success, real well, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, I think it's been a humbling experience to a certain extent. We've had to come back down to base zero and build it back up. And the guys got to realize that as they look around the locker room, that it's all about them. Okay, in the championship years, it's all about everybody. But I mean, in all the years, it's really about them and them getting their act together and making the plays when they need to make them.
When you have a loss like last week that really didn't resemble your other losses in the final score, do you tell them to forget about it or learn from it, or what's sort of the message after that?
In my experience, okay, when you have a loss like the Ottawa game 2 weeks ago, okay, that was really the more significant game because that was a real emotional game. The guys reached down deep, they came back. And I think both teams, there was a level of exhilaration. In our case, it was the exhilaration and it ended up in disappointment, but it really takes a lot out of you, more out of you than is sometimes calculated. I liken it last year to our first place victory over Western, the 27-26 game, and then we go down against Laurier and we look like, we left it on the bus. So I think and I think the same thing could be said of Ottawa. I mean, that they have an emotional victory like that against us, and they weren't able to respond against, Toronto last week. So games like that take a lot more out of you. The sports side, what you expend and the emotional, psychological part. For everything you spend, there's always a deficit, and there was nobody could see anything coming. What happened at Western? There was. Our kids were confident going in the game. They were excited. They were not intimidated running out there in front of that homecoming crowd. They were not. But things didn't go our way early, and then we got into a rut. Of course, when you get behind, you get out of your game plan, and that's always unfortunate. There's some things we would have liked to have done that, when you feel the score slipping away, you got to change. And then what happens is that defensively, we make a commitment to stop the run. Perhaps underestimating a little bit Western's ability to throw the ball deep, because then we get beat on the deep ball. And, when you get beat on deep balls and you have special teams faux pas and that kind of stuff, it drags you down a little bit. It makes it hard to sort of be positive and come back. But that's what you got to do. And I think our kids have practiced hard this week. They really want to win this football game, and they understand the consequences. We're in dire straits with regards to the season. And what happened at Laurier is irrelevant to us. We feel we have to beat Toronto. That's the only thing that's relevant for us right now.
Coach, when you're looking for the victory, do you keep it simple? Each week I know you try to add things into the playbook, but...
Well, you play to your strengths. You have to play to your strengths. In a season like we're having, okay, it's basically been about consistency. So, keeping our young quarterbacks... What I would say about our team on offense, too, is that a lot of the guys are really pressing. They understand that, we really got to do something, and that's not a good frame of mind to be in. You have to go out and play relaxed, and unfortunately we haven't been able to do that. But, there's sometimes, when things appear to be at their absolute worst, that's when, you have to hit rock bottom sometimes before you get things turned around. And that's where we're at. I think we've had a good week of practice. The guys have stayed positive, and they understand where they're at. And I believe they're going to perform. They're going to do well on Saturday.
Anything else?
I was just wondering how your game planning has changed this year as opposed to years past. The OUA's kind of seen a bit of a shift from more pocket passing offenses to now we have a lot of teams with dual threat quarterbacks and very deep in the backfield. So how do you kind of switch that?
In the top 20 rushers, 8 of them are quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's an interesting stat. Well, of course, the one characteristic from last year to this year is that we're not getting the big draw, and several of them in a game, the explosion play. I think Windsor might be the only exception where we had, we caught them in man coverage on several occasions. We got a number of big throws up the field. Teams are playing more zone. They're making it more difficult. I think that's probably a reflection of where the quarterbacks are at right now. If you can play an aggressive zone, there are spaces in there, but young quarterbacks probably don't see the field, as well as they're going to when they mature, etc. And so, on every play there's somebody open, but it doesn't matter if the quarterback doesn't see him, kind of thing. And so what that does is that forces you to be a little bit better in the running game. You've got to be almost superb on defense. You can't have a breakdown on defense when your quarterback is young, and of course we haven't been that, So game planning can be calling in the game can be a little bit perilous too. When you go in with a plan, and then when you get behind, you have to go into more drastic measures. Whereas, as long as the score stays close, then you can continue to execute your deal and set things up and take advantages. In retrospect, there are a few play calls I wish I'd had back. I mean, we'd like to, our quarterback is probably best when he's on the move, and we could have got him on the move a little bit better earlier. But he came out of several games, executing the package extremely well. And one thing you want for a young quarterback is consistency. So when he finally gets it and he looks like he's performing well, I don't think that anybody would have thought that his performance in the McMaster or the Windsor game, necessitated us to do anything drastic. Okay, it's subsequent to that when he got into new situations that we had to make some shifts. So there's a process of learning what you can do and what you can't do, and then settling in on what works by the end of the year. So that's how it's come together.
Are there times where he could still use his legs more, like he's hesitating a bit to use his legs?
Well, I suppose in retrospect, I mean, there's if you want to sort of get into paralysis by analysis, I mean there's always things that that can go differently. I mean, it's like every time the quarterback throws a ball that isn't completed, there's going to be somebody saying, "Well, why didn't he run?" And he takes off and gets a 5-yard gain, and did he not see that guy open? I mean, that's kind of the way it is. It's quarterback's a tough position to play, and there's a lot expected of you. And I think our guys have done. I realize that this is not the way the media is portraying it, but I think our guys have done really well. They have really grasped quite a bit, and so there's a level of competitive excellence that you have to get to before you sort of elevate yourself from the pack, and I think that's definitely in the future for them. So until that time comes, I mean, the pressure is on all the other guys. We got to be almost perfect at O-line, receiver, at running back. We've got to be tremendous, because we understand that there's going to be some things he's not going to see or be able to do. So there's no question that he's an exciting player and a productive player when he gets on the move. And then Billy has got a tremendous arm. I mean, you can see he's got a future as a pocket-style passer. And now as defenses seem to know how to play him a little bit. I mean, once again, an aggressive zone, tighter spots, different looks. So he just needs to see more of them, get more experience, more time on film. Too bad they weren't all full-time football players. I'm sure we could get them ready.